Ephraim Walker, who was gracious enough to take a trip from the Bay and to be with us today. And really what we want to have is a conversation with all of you. We'll be telling stories, talking, and we've got a good amount of time to really dig in into what you saw and some of your thoughts. First things I just want to formally introduce Ephraim, and then we'll want to start with Ephraim and I talked before we came in, and we wanted to really start with your reactions to the film, what's coming up for you, and what you're sitting with, and then we'll be getting into some stories, some about tragedy, some about hope, and possibility. But Ephraim is one of the producers of Fruitvale Station, and just to put it out there a little bit, he said, I want to stay after for the reception so I can talk to as many people as possible. And from my short time getting to know Ephraim on the regular, we have time to really sit down and chat. I've gotten the sense that the film work he's part of, as well as who he is that kind of person, an open person. So take that time and take advantage of that. We'll both be around to chat after. So he's an American filmmaker from Oakland, California. He has a bachelor's degree from Howard University in Washington, D.C. Recently, in 2010, he graduated with a dual major, and maybe this will be surprising, maybe not. He earned a master's in fine arts, cinematic arts specifically, right, from USC, up the road, and also a Juris Doctorate, a JD, so he is a practicing lawyer from the University of Southern California Gould School of Law. Fruitvale Station was his first feature film that he was involved in. We'll talk about that as an amazing achievement for a first time out. And it's been well received domestically and internationally. It won the Audience Choice Award in the Sundance Film Festival in 2013. It won the Cannes International Film Festival 2013. Was it Best Film Award for that, or was it Best New Feature? Best New Feature. And in 2013 also won a Watto International Film Festival Award. It recently, on Sunday, won an NAACP Image Award, right? That was all over Twitter. And Saturday, we're crossing our fingers for an independent film channel first feature. I think it's first feature. Film Independent Spirit Award. Sunday is the Academy Awards. Just missed the nomination. We'll talk about the politics, perhaps, of that. But we're rooting for them. There's amazing films also nominated. But so those are the possibilities. I'm going to pass it to Ephraim. Anything he wants to say as an introduction, as a welcome, and then we want to hear from you initially. We could probably just pass the mic around. I would encourage you to be gracious with the time. If you speak, give space for other people. Pass the mic, so to speak. So I want to demonstrate that first by passing the mic to Ephraim.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for coming out, watching the film, and I guess sticking around to spend a little time. And you know, I'm always interested to see young people's reactions to the film. I mean, we made Fruitvale Station as a group of young filmmakers. I mean, I think all of us were either still in film school or a year or so removed from college when we started working on Fruitvale Station. And so, while we hope that the film touches everyone, we really made it for you guys, people about this age group, and so I was hoping to kind of get some reactions from the crowd on what you liked about the film, what you didn't like, and maybe how it made you feel.
So we can grab that mic there. Okay. So if you feel comfortable, you can come up to the mic or take it off, and then the next person that wants to talk, we can pass it around. Thanks. And just say your name so we can say hi before you say out. Say it, please.
My name is Sam, and a question was a question and a comment. For one thing, I guess in your law practice, I wanted to ask you, is this experience making this film, has it maybe directed you in the area of civil rights and police brutality? And the other comment is, I've personally collected all of the documents in this case when it was both at the trial level and the appellate level. It was heard, they brought it down to the criminal courts building downtown because they wanted to get away from the emotions of Oakland, see if they can, obviously, it wasn't, you know, they were going to get a murder conviction in Oakland, so they tried to, somehow they finagled to get it down here so they could try to get less. But I collected all the documents, looked at all of them, and I just want to get your, now that you're a practicing attorney, how has this, the experience of this film influenced your law practice, and when you continue to make, even though you're a practicing lawyer, you make other films that are along the same genre. It was the most moving film that I'd seen since I went to movies in a long time. It was very, very sad. The last scene was a very, very sad scene. Thank you.
Well, to answer your first question, I'm a civil rights attorney by trade. Matter of fact, just to give you guys a little bit of background, you know, on Fruitvale Station, I served as consultant producer. And kind of how this whole thing started, the writer and director, Ryan Coogler, who couldn't make it here today. He's just, you know, super busy. It's awards week, and he's all over the place speaking about the film. We became friends back at USC. I was in law school at the time, I was in film school, and we started working on projects right back then. And you know, Ryan had told me right after Oscar Grant got shot that he wanted to do a film about Oscar Grant because it was a really powerful event for both of us, being, you know, young black males from the East Bay. After I graduated from law school, I took a job working for this attorney named John Burris, and he's the attorney who represented the family of Oscar Grant. And so, with my, you know, background in filmmaking, and also my, I guess my legal training, I was able to secure a job there working with John Burris, and that was kind of how we were able to get access to the material to make the film, and also to get access to the family and really the life rights and everything that we needed to make the film. So I guess I've always kind of had a heart for civil rights work and social justice, and so I guess I'll continue to keep up the fight for social justice. And most of the films that I'm working on after Fruitvale Station, they have that same kind of thrust. You know, I kind of want to do things that are based on real events and that examine the issues of our day. And one of those things that I think affects all of us is the fight for all of our civil rights, all of our constitutional rights. And one of the things that affects us most, I think, or that's been kind of brought into the spotlight, is the fight for justice and kind of like combating police brutality and things of that nature. But thank you for your question.
Welcome to those that just stepped in. This is Ephraim Walker, producer with Fruitvale Station. I'm Middlebrook, assistant professor of sociology. We're just taking reactions initially for people that have seen the film or for what you just witnessed here. And I don't know if thanks happened earlier, but I wanted to make sure we get this in and probably say at the end again. But I want to thank Toro Productions and the staff for making that happen. Round of applause, please. Christina Lundy and the staff at the Multicultural Center were instrumental in making this happen. Please enthusiastic round of applause. Also, Vivian Price and Labor Studies, intrinsic in making this happen. And for anyone that I left out, my apologies. You can steal my plate of food later at the reception. So anyone that would like to offer initial reactions to seeing this film, or if you've seen it already, what came up for you? And you can grab that mic or come up to it.
Hi. I really I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but I was definitely moved by the film, and you know, it kind of just brought back that real sensation of just, I don't even know if I want to call it rage, but I mean just anger at you know, the institutions, you know, that are so prevalent in this country, especially among you know, law enforcement, justice system type of institutions. One thing I wanted to ask about was, you know, when there's the bag of weed that Oscar throws away. I just wondered, because that seemed like, you know, I guess really unusual to me, because that doesn't seem like it would be something that, you know, I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem like something a person would really do in that situation. But I just wanted to ask why you, you know, what was the motivation with that, and you know, I thought it was great though.
No, thank you for that question. I mean, we did a ton of research when we were working on this film. Obviously, we couldn't talk to Oscar about what he did during his last 24 hours on Earth, so we talked to those people that were closest to him. The story about him throwing the weed into the marina came actually from his girlfriend, Sophia Mesa. She's a good friend of mine, good friend of Ryan's, and you know, she talked about how Oscar had told her that he wanted to go straight, and that he had actually basically taken his drugs and thrown them away rather than selling and kind of continue in that lifestyle. So, you know, obviously we didn't put her on a lie detector machine or anything like that, but it's based on a story that we were told by Oscar and what he was trying to do on his last day.
Good evening. My name is Luana. Sorry, guys, I got a cold. I want to say that the film was actually amazing. Truly great piece. I'm not angry, I'm not upset, I'm not sad. It's actually a friendly reminder. You know, I've seen one film similar to this, so not similar, but Do the Right Thing, you know, by Spike Lee. If we, you know, we play close to what the story was trying to tell us, it's just a friendly reminder that our tax dollars can't hurt us. And I just want people, I try to critically think about this and think about the power we give our law enforcement. My father's a sergeant for the LAPD. I mean, we have this dialogue consistently. We just, we're not safe. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. I'm a black male, 23 years old. We're not safe, and that's just real talk. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And I appreciate you for highlighting that in this film.
You know, I'm glad you pointed that out. I don't know if most people realize this, but Fruitvale Station, from a filmmaking standpoint, is called a slice of life. Essentially, it was a slice of life of Oscar Grant's life from the last 24 hours of his life, inspired by Do the Right Thing, which was a study of the last 24 hours of a neighborhood in Brooklyn that Spike Lee went through. There was also a movie called Elephant, which was about a young black man that was killed by the police in France, and there's a couple of other examples of that. But that was kind of the format that we went along with. You know, thank you for your comments. I mean, I think they're based on reality. I wouldn't disagree with anything you just said.
I was wondering too, as we go with are you confident to run mics or something available? Because it can be kind of, just for me as an audience member, it can be kind of intimidating to have to like lock down an aisle and speaking to. So just maybe just to create the conversation and get around, do you mind, or someone could help if you just raise your hand, you have something to say, we can bring you the mic. Ephraim's bringing me the mic, and I'm bringing him the mic, so might as well do for that as well. Cool. So maybe a couple more, and we'll ask some questions and start some conversation. So a couple more initial reactions for those who have seen the film, or for those that just watched it, what's coming up for you? What are you sitting with?
So I've viewed the film twice. First time I viewed it was in theaters, and I realized I was a lot more emotional. And the second time I viewed it, I felt like I looked at it from a different perspective. And I was just wondering when you were making the film, why did you guys choose to only make it like a day before, like 24 hours before his death? Like, what made you make that decision?
I guess it's a tough question, but I think like there's a couple of reasons behind that. I mean, when I was looking at the case, just working on the inside as an attorney, I was really struck by a couple of things that were really powerful on Oscar's last day. For example, it was his mother's birthday, right? The day before he went out, and he's at a party with his mother, and he wanted to drive to San Francisco, and she's like, "No, Oscar, take Barb," that whole thing. So that was really powerful. And the other thing is that, looking at the statements of the people involved, and that, they really did kind of go over their New Year's resolutions, kind of like on New Year's Eve as opposed to doing them like the next day when it was New Year's Day. So, and then, stylistically, directors make a decision on how they want to make their film. When Ryan and I decided to kind of embark on this film together, this was how he wanted to do Fruitvale Station, and he never wavered from that. And so I think he just had a vision on the best way to make this film, and his vision proved, to be the best intuition. It was a powerful film. I allowed him on his filmmaking abilities, and I think that vision ended up being a really good way to do the film. So it worked.
Hi, so for me the film was very bittersweet, seeing as I am from LA, urban LA, South Central. Situations like this are very all too familiar for me, but if I could piggyback off the last 24 hours of the movie, it seems that it showed the good times and the bad times, and within the last 24 hours of his life, we got to see who he was like as a person or as a character. So it reminds us of the constant struggle that you're going through within yourself, and just being financially stable, and just providing and being provided, and also being a black male. And as far as the metaphors throughout the movie, you kind of really have to watch it, because when he threw away the marijuana, it was symbolic, saying that he wanted a fresh start, or I could go back to selling drugs and making a lot of money, but this is not what I want for me and my family.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So I was a little confused. Was he still in the game when he was with his buddies? I was a little confused. When he got an altercation with the white man, was he still part of the game? Or was it the same guy that was in jail in the flashback? Because sometimes I just think that had to do a lot with the people that he was around, and surrounding himself with that got him in trouble in the first place.
Well, Oscar, like so many of you young men that all of us know, sometimes you're a victim of circumstance. What happened in real life is that Oscar, for whatever reason, ran into someone that he had some beef with back when he did some time in San Quentin. And, as you can see in the film, it was not much of a fight. People described it as a bit of a wrestling match. There was some pushing involved, maybe 1 or 2 punches thrown, but from a legal standpoint, it was basically a misdemeanor altercation. It wasn't, there were no felonies committed, no one was seriously injured. And the reason why the fight on the train is important, because if you do any research into the case, you'll be able to see that police came on the scene because there was a call about a fight on the train. But if you study law at all, then what you'll know is that a police officer coming onto the scene of a misdemeanor, unless someone is visibly injured at the time, or unless they have an eyewitness who's going to talk to the police and corroborate what they actually saw on the train, they're not legally able to scale investigation at the scene of the crime and be able to detain people. And so that's important from a legal standpoint because part of what this civil case is about right now and the criminal case as well is whether or not the police officers were justified in detaining these young men and keeping them on the platform. And they could have just let them go because they didn't really have anything to corroborate what they heard over the radio. So, but to answer your question more fully, Oscar wasn't really in the game per se. I mean, Palma Sea is a neighborhood in Hayward, and you know, for better or for worse, I mean, you may have clashes with other people in your age range that are from a different part of your city, and that's probably what led to the fight. But if you see what happened in context, I don't think anyone would agree that that was enough justification for that officer to then kill Oscar.
Just one more thing, so I was a little, like, was he part of a game? He asked him to sit down. He asked one of the guys, I'm gonna go sit. That's why he walked that way. Like, I don't know, I was just confused, that's why I assumed he was in a game, and he's asking permission to go to the back, sit down. That's why.
Oh, your question was Oscar part of a gang?
Yeah, because he seemed like his friends, the way they were talking to each other, the way they were communicating, it's like they know each other previously, and they're like this. I don't know, it just seemed.
I mean, I think like, I think gang is a loaded term, especially in the Bay Area where we don't really have gangs like that. I mean, there's like, people kind of like organized according to like sets or like different areas of the city. And so like Palma Sea is like a part of Hayward. There's a park called Palma Sea, and people from that area, they all hang out together. So they have a close affiliation with that area of Hayward. But they've never been classified by a gang, by any like police gang task force or anything like that. So maybe they have an affiliation to a certain part of their city, but they weren't like a gang for legal purposes.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, I teach criminology and justice study classes as part of the research that I do. And I was just thinking too, you're not alone having attention to whether someone's in a gang or not. Much of how sentences are handed out or prison time is given is organized by attention to whether someone's in a gang or not. The support for mass policing, mass arrest or mass imprisonment, and the public support for that often comes around the idea of controlling gangs or gang violence. Whatever your politics are on that, for me I always sit with whether someone's in a gang or not, does that change how we value someone's life? So it's just a question. That's not dismissing your question, it's an important one, but it's something that is also very political in terms of how policy is made based on people's fear of someone that's been identified as a gang member in particular. LA, we've talked about deal with gang injunctions and things too. Certainly if you want to raise things that come up for you that film, do that in the course of our discussion. Wanted to move into some questions that, to begin some storytelling from you and from Ephraim, maybe things that you haven't heard about the film, and from our discussion earlier that Ephraim hasn't been asked yet. And how long has the film been out now? 2 years?
Just over a year.
Just over a year? So I'm doing my job. I was following cues from Barbara Walters, who said, if you want to interview someone, write 50 questions, and then choose like the 8 best. Maybe if I get one in there, do I have to do okay? First thing I wanted to just recognize was, and the ceremonies after this reception for ceremony celebrating Black History Month. There's still events going on the next 2 days, but to recognize these amazing events that Dominguez Hills has put on. So please a round of applause for everyone involved in that. I think there was at least 3 or 4 events per week, wasn't there? Say at least, so you were busy, I love this, as well as other people. I just wanted to recognize this day in Black history specifically, and then go into a couple of questions for Ephraim. I don't know if you guys know this, but this was interesting to me. On February 26th, in different years, Carter G. Woodson founded what was called, in 1926, Negro History Week. which later became Black History Month as we know it. So in 2026, it'll be the 100th-year anniversary of Black History Month. Yes. In 1928, Fats Domino, I don't know if you know Fats, if not, to check out his music, was born in 1928, yes. A singer, pianist, band leader, songwriter. He had number 6 on the Billboard Top 100 in the UK. Number 6, in both cases, the single was Blueberry Hill, classic record, as well as 35 other US top 40 singles. So in terms of Black music, that's significant. I'm going here chronologically up to the present. 1965, Jimmy Lee Jackson was a civil rights activist. He died at the hand of a police officer at a voting rights meeting in Marion, Alabama, on this day in 1965. In 1970, to think about the international context for not only Black History Month, but radical revolutionary struggle. There's a thing called the February Revolution. Anyone familiar with this? This is the historian in me nerding out. This was in Trinidad and Tobago. This was a mass-based movement mobilized around Black Power. So Black Power going international towards the end of the Black Power movement in the United States. It included a march of 10,000 people in the capital city of Port of Spain, calling for Black dignity and economic redistribution. In 1971, Erykah Badu was born on this day. Yes. Happy birthday, Erykah. Ladies and gentlemen, Erykah Badu. No, she's next to it. Thanks to it. In 1983, Michael Jackson's Thriller on this day went #1 on the US album chart. Now, if you don't know, that went on to become the most successful album of all time, with sales over 50 million copies. And today on this day, 2 years ago, Trayvon Martin was killed by George Zimmerman. So I want to say this is the beginning of, and there's a connection here between Trayvon Martin and this film that I wanted to ask Ephraim about, that I know about. But we'll get to that in a second. But I wanted to start with January 1st, 2009, for you, Ephraim. Where were you the day Oscar Grant was shot and killed? What did it mean? What feelings came up? What were you hearing? And then we'll talk about how that led to the end of the film.
Yeah, you know, January 1st, 2009 was really bittersweet because just like 2 months earlier, that was probably one of the highest highs that I'd ever experienced. President Obama had just been elected. I was a student at USC at the time, and USC is like it's a private school. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but you know the Black population at USC is about 4 or 5%. And I think like Black and brown total was about 10%. So it's not exactly a racially diverse school. And you know, at that time, race is always an interesting topic of conversation. And, people were saying that since President Obama had been elected, that obviously there was more racism in America, and that we can all rest assured that that had kind of gone away. So it was bittersweet that about 6 weeks later that Oscar Grant was killed on video on a park platform on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I remember being out with some friends, and I hadn't heard about Oscar Grant, and then the next day I got a call. I wasn't open at the time. I wasn't on the bar that night, but I remember the next day seeing something on the news and just being kind of blown away that this could happen. On the bar, right, and it was on video. I kind of couldn't wrap my mind around it. But about a week later, I went back to school, and Ryan Cooper and I, we were friends at that point. That was when we first talked about Oscar Grant, and that was kind of when he first told me that he really wanted to make a film about Oscar, just to kind of like tell the story in a very good way. So that was kind of where I started.
What was the intersection with Trayvon in the early, well, maybe it's just,
I know you mentioned to me there's an intersection here with the life and the death of Trayvon Martin in the early stages, and how did that come up in conversation, or how does that connect to the film in your experience or in your mind?
So February of 2011, we had just settled the civil rights case for Wanda Johnson, who was Oscar Grant's mother. And so we were pretty heavy into negotiations to get her life rights, and she used Oscar's likeness and image in the film as well as hers. And so while we were working on that, which is a part of pre-production, we were interested in working in the film. Ryan asked me had I heard about the Trayvon Martin case, and I was like, I wasn't really sure who, Trayvon Martin was at that point. I think it had happened like that day or the day before. And it turned out it was just another case of a young black man killed in questionable circumstances. So that kind of like nudged us along the way to really making sure that we made this film. It was kind of a part of what we wanted to do. And it was interesting that, ultimately when our film was released on a national level, it was July 12th, 2012. The next day that Trayvon Martin verdict was handed down, and was, pronounced not guilty of the murder of Trayvon Martin. So those parallels kind of kept popping up as we were making this film.
And as we go, if something comes up for you, if you have a question or a comment, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so we've got one here. Is someone still running mics? I can run the mic too.
I just want to know, what race are you?
Me or where are you from? Oh, okay. What do you think? My background is what?
Caucasian.
Yes, my background is French, German, and my aunt told me a little bit Irish. But the box I check, if we're talking about boxes, is Caucasian or white.
So my question for you is, why do you care so much about our culture and about what we go through and what we struggle about when you don't experience the same thing we experience?
I appreciate that question. For me, and I think this is part that speaks to also why the film resonated so much beyond just the black community. Was to me, it's really an issue about justice. It's an issue about the rights of the human being. What do we as human beings deserve? I think talk about this in class a lot and talking about criminology when people talk about their experiences, but I think one of the functions of racism, from my understanding, is the segregation of communities by race and class, so that we often don't see how police, for this example, or institutions relate differently to communities based on race and class. When I found that out just personally, sort of by accident, because I grew up in a largely white community in southern Minnesota. I've lived in cities, Minneapolis, LA, Oakland. At one time, we were talking about the connections there. For half of my life. I actually, this was interesting, back to Oakland. I was living on West 19th Street in West Oakland, which, if you don't know, Oakland is a historically black area of Oakland, near the port. But that was my first exposure to seeing how police operate within largely black communities, where my neighbors were getting pulled over and money taken out of their wallets and then let go. And I asked my neighbor, like, what the heck was that? And they said, that's Tuesday. That was new to me. But I think it's, just to keep it brief, I just think that we can do better. That's pretty much it. And I hate it. Not just when racism destroys lives, but destroys friendships. Like, vibe out with you because we're different levels of melanin in our skin. Because we live in different parts of the city. I don't understand that. So, that's where I'm at, I think. Still learning. Thank you for the question. What's this white guy doing? Fair enough. A story about Oscar Grant went to Hollywood. What did that mean for the story? For the filmmakers, for the producers, for those of us that seek to tell stories that touch a lot of people, what does it mean, I guess, to sell a story? I don't know, maybe there's something else to it, but what does it mean to go Hollywood with a story, in my opinion, that's pretty groundbreaking? I don't know if you guys agree, but at this level of production, at this level of recognition, what does it mean to take what I consider racial justice to the Hollywood stage? For better or for worse? So however you want to do that.
I mean, I guess I can just speak on how it happened. Ryan was one of the most promising filmmakers to come out of USC, so he had an interview with Forrest Whitaker at Significant Productions. As I remember, they talked about a lot of ideas for television shows, and Forrest wasn't really feeling any of it, and so he brought up the Oscar Grant story, which he and I were working on at the time, and people in LA, I guess, hadn't heard about it as much. Forrest hadn't heard about it at all. He's like, Oscar Grant, who's that? He's like, well, let me show you this video on YouTube. Forrest saw the video and instantly was like, yeah, we know we have to tell this story. You guys make that happen. So that was kind of where it started. Now, I guess in terms of dealing with Hollywood, just from a production standpoint, people here in LA think that the world revolves around LA. And so, we're big on authenticity and making things very much real. So we wanted to shoot the movie entirely on location. We wanted to do everything in Oakland or Hayward or San Francisco. But essentially, as Oscar's life played out that day, we wanted to do it in those same locations. And I think the biggest hurdle that we faced was actually using the BART station where Oscar was killed, which was Fruitvale BART Station. And I think that all of us that were producing the film, we were kind of standing fast, and that if we couldn't shoot at Fruitvale BART Station, the very spot where he lost his life, then we didn't want to make the film. And so that was a big fight with us in the production company, but ultimately they went ahead and gave in. And so as opposed to using some set that we built here in LA to shoot it, we shot it on location at Fruitvale BART Station. At the very spot where Oscar died, to the point that there's a indention of a bullet that went through Oscar's back and out of his chest and left a mark on the platform in that very place where he died. And when we were shooting it, you could feel the tension, you could feel the spirit. It was almost like Oscar was watching over us while we were making the film. And it really showed through in the film, I think, in that you could feel the authenticity. And I think it just lent a certain vibe to the film that really showed through, and I think it kind of resonated with everyone. I don't know that you could have captured that drama and that sense of loss and terror that Oscar felt unless you were in the exact place, where he died, so that you could conjure his spirit the last time. So that was our other experience.
And again, if you have things, you're welcome to comment or ask a question, raise your hand. This film's about death. Oh, go ahead, you want to say something?
Yeah, just thank you for such a phenomenal piece of work. But then also, too, from going from making something so, I would say, groundbreaking, what are some future projects you're looking to do not in comparison to, but just overall film work we may still want to produce? What are some things you're looking into doing in the near future?
I know that we were talking about this kind of at length. I mean, the team that made Fruitvale Station, there was a couple of us. I mean, Ryan Coogler wrote and directed it. I was, consultant producer, associate producer, Gerard McMurray, who's another good friend of ours. We've been doing films together since film school. So Gerard's next film as writer-director is this film called Underground that deals with hazing in fraternities. It was inspired by this kid named Robert Champion who was killed during a hazing incident at FAMU. He was beaten to death on a bus during a bad hazing ritual. I guess my next film that was inspired by some of the work that I've done is this film called Riders, and it's about a case about these group of road cops that were doing some really terrible things, and some of the same things that you were talking about that you experienced, and ultimately how they were brought up on charges, and they all lost their jobs in the city of Oakland, sued for millions of dollars based on their conduct. So I think that we all want to do projects that highlight experiences that we have in our communities, and also things that are socially relevant and speak to the issues of our day as young filmmakers.
So this film is about death, but it's also about life. What I was particularly struck by in watching it was a couple of things, and I want to see if you can speak to this from or anyone who wants to speak to it. The relationships between people, the important role of women in this film, and the role of family in particular as sort of a space of connection for those relationships. So I don't really have much more than just seeing that there's some real power in that, and so it was more of an observation, but I want to see if you have anything that you want to speak to that, and anyone else that would speak to that.
I mean, I think that was a great observation. Oscar, like so many young men, especially young men of color, his father, I can say this because it's the truth. His father, is locked away in prison, so Oscar didn't have much of a father figure in his life. And so the way that you get to know Oscar, and really the way that you come to know and love Oscar, is through the women in his life, and that's his mother, that's his girlfriend, and that's his daughter. And those moments where you see the tenderness that he feels for the women in his life, and you also get to see how hard that these women really loved him. Really allowed us to show Oscar's humanity, and for me it was a lot more personal. I mean, I was there when his mother was breaking down crying because her son was being demonized by the media, and I held his girlfriend when she was crying because she missed her man, and she was terrified of what was going to happen to her daughter. Who was going to grow up without a father, without a male role model, And I think it's just the case with so many young men, just because they're not typical providers, meaning they don't have a 9-to-5. Traditionally, do the daddy thing, come home after working 60 hours a week, eat the big piece of chicken, right? Like Oscar he was a provider. He loved his daughter. He did everything he could for his family. And I hope that you could see that through the film, because that was actually the honest to God truth. And people that know Oscar, including his family, will tell you.
Okay. I was thinking about that the whole time, because I've never actually experienced someone, like a man in my life that has been taken away due to like violence or police brutality. But at the same time, I was still very taken by the movie. I think it was because of the women I was able to relate to in the movie and their relationship with him. And so I just think that was very powerful and was very well done. And if you don't mind, I have another question, but I don't know if we're still on this topic. Okay. So you said that you and Ryan and Oscar, you guys knew each other, right? You said you guys knew each other?
No, we didn't know Oscar.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys knew each other.
Oscar died while we were still in school. I mean, I'm a little bit older than Ryan, but Ryan and Oscar were the exact same age. So we kind of all knew people that knew Oscar.
Did you guys grow up in the same area?
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Basically. So what do you think, because you and Ryan, you guys went to USC and you guys chose the college route. What was it, do you think, that was the difference between Oscar going to college and taking that route instead?
I mean, I think Oscar's a product of his decisions. I'm not going to make excuses for anyone. I mean, even though Oscar didn't have a father, I mean, his mother, Wanda, she's a beautiful woman. You know, she's a reverend at a church. She's a manager at UPS, I think. I mean, she has a good job. So, you know, and Oscar didn't necessarily grow up in Oakland. He grew up in Hayward. So he had opportunities in his life, and, you know, I think he just kind of chose a different path. And I don't judge anyone on the decisions that they make with their life. I just think that maybe he was one of those people that felt like he didn't want to go to college. And, you know, I think as we see every day, you know, the decisions that you make in your life may lead you to different places within your life. And, you know, ultimately Oscar's choices kind of led him to being on that platform, to being in that situation. And I think the movie just was there to kind of show that just because Oscar wasn't a college-educated, you know, white-collar member of society, his death wasn't any less tragic. You know, everyone deserves a chance to live. Everyone deserves a chance to go on about their lives, and people's lives shouldn't be taken, regardless of the decisions that they made throughout their lives.
I wanted to. Was there anyone else that was? Okay.
Dude, congratulations, man. First film is pretty tight. It's really cool. I'm a filmmaker as well, and I was just reaching out for some advice. I'm kind of at that point where I'm just about to finish school, and it's like, am I going to continue trying to pursue this film career? But my story is a little different because I don't come from a top-notch USC school, and so, you know, just advice to an upcoming filmmaker: how do you get those meetings with Forrest Whitaker?
Ladies and gentlemen, Forrest. You know, I gotta tell you, man, connections do mean something in the industry, right? But at the end of the day, man, you know, this is just me speaking as a filmmaker myself, man. Like, if the material is good, the material is good. You know, if your writing is strong and you have a great story, you can find the right people to get behind your project. You know, it takes a lot of hard work, and you just can't be scared of the word no. I mean, you know, we had a great project. You know what I mean? Based on real events. I mean, video evidence and the whole thing. We got told no so many times. I mean, for people that didn't want to deal with the project, people that didn't want to put up money. I mean, even having Forrest Whitaker and Octavius Spencer attached, you know, people were still hesitant to write that check. So, I think that's the challenge for every filmmaker. You know, based on my experience, you definitely want to delve into all the resources available to independent filmmakers. We had a lot of support from the San Francisco Film Society. They're supporting our next project called Riders, and a bunch of other stuff. They gave us a lot of money for Fruitvale Station. So I know LA has a very big independent film scene. You may want to check out San Francisco Film Society. You know, for me, I think a lot of it is just doing things to get exposure. So if you can pull together $5,000 to $10,000, you know, shoot that 10 to 15 minute short that you've been working. You know, get all your friends together, get you a YouTube channel, do something creative, put it out there on the web, because a lot of times it's about getting noticed, right? Like USC teaches us to get jobs in Hollywood. So, you know, you can probably get a job at Paramount as the third editor on, you know, whatever little show that's going to come out on, you know, some channel on cable. But true independent filmmakers, you know, they just forge ahead, man. And if you don't have a ton of money in your family, most filmmakers of color don't have that backup. You just have to find other ways to do it. That's why we have guerrilla filmmaking. You know, you can make a movie on your iPhone right now. Bring your iPhone, use iMovie, get a couple of your friends, shoot a movie right here on campus, and it can be dope if it's edited right. So like, just be brave. Just don't be scared. You know what I mean? And once you get that exposure, all it takes is one person to take a chance on you, and you can move forward. I appreciate that.
We have about 10 minutes left. I want to get in questions. I mean, I have a list, but your questions are the priority. And so do that. And I also just want to say, because students come to my office sometimes, I'm not a filmmaker, but I've worked with the industry in terms of art, academics, sometimes, academic industry, yes it exists. But I was going to say, just take advantage of the fact that we're in close proximity to spaces like UCLA or USC. There's so, having been a student there as well, there's so many events that are free like this, that you could just come in, and then your networking is the same as students that are paying $50,000 or $60,000 a year. Those can be connections that you make. So I think creatively about how you can use space and connect, and if you want to brainstorm together, come say hi to me in sociology, and happy to put our heads together, put a plan together. All right.
I appreciate you opening that up.
Absolutely.
I have two questions. One is, do you think the film Fruitvale would have, since the Trayvon Martin situation, do you think people's eyes were open at that time, and you said it was a couple days after, or a couple days the verdict came, and you were in production, do you think that might have highlighted the situation for her to tell you yes to make the film? And also, do you think people are, the reason why people are saying no to making films like this because they are tired of hearing about racism and stuff like this? Do you feel like that the choices, sometimes I know like people tell you no one's talking about that. They want the next hot thing, they want something the same, they don't want to talk about racism, sensitive. So do you think that's why no?
You know, I'm really glad you asked those questions, because they're really relevant, actually. To your first question, I think the Trayvon Martin issue kind of like heating up around the time that we were looking for funding may have helped. I really think that, you know, intentional or not, our film being released the same weekend that Trayvon Martin, the verdict came out, it did really help bring the issue to like a more national audience. I mean, I think that people really kind of stood up and paid attention at that point. So it was fortunate for us. It was bittersweet though. I remember being on such a high, you know, being in Times Square in New York. We had just been on CNN. Our film was coming out that day. And you know, Fruitvale Station was up in lights. And we were like, man, you know, we did something huge, you know, we're gonna change the world. And the next day, you know, George Zimmerman gets pronounced not guilty. You know, I sat in my car, I cried for half an hour. I couldn't stop because I couldn't figure out maybe where we had went wrong, or you know, maybe had we released the film a few weeks earlier, could we have, you know, changed the minds of people? It was so sad to see that America hadn't changed that much during that time, but it was okay, you know, because you just continue to do the work, you know. And I guess to your second question, I think the reason people told us no so much because I think there's like a problem when people see black cinema as serious. You know, Fruitvale Station wasn't about racism. It was just a serious look at life. I mean, it wasn't funny. You know, Oscar wasn't wearing a dress. You know what I mean? It didn't star Kevin Hart. You know what I mean? So it wasn't as lighthearted and fun, I guess, as people expect like black cinema to be. So like a lot of times, if it doesn't have to do with relationships or it's not comedy, people don't think that it's going to sell. They try to say that it's urban film, right? And what we hear in Hollywood every day, well, urban films don't do well internationally, so we don't want to make those. It's too niche. Nobody's going to want to watch it. But that's why I'm telling you, dude. And excuse my language. If your shit is good, it's just good. It doesn't matter if it's black, white, Asian, or alien. You know what I mean? A story is a story, and if the story is powerful, then it will sell. So don't worry about getting pigeonholed. And if you have a story that you want to tell, if it's good and you believe in it, then go out and fucking make it. Don't let nobody tell you no. I swear to God, and like, and that's the best thing that I can leave you guys with. Like, be brave, be bold, and just do what you love, and trust me, it will resonate, and people will deal with it on some level.
Two more. I just want to make a quick announcement. You're all probably wondering what the singing is. The reception that everybody has been referring to on stage has started. And so they are going. We've got this room for about another 5 minutes, so you've got time for 2 more questions, but you can all stay and ask the questions of Ephraim, and I think he's going on to the Black History Month closing ceremony, which is next door.
Yeah, so we can take these questions from the stage to the reception. So one here, and then Professor Prado.
Just really quick, we kind of touched on it with her question. You made mention to how Oscar Grant was being demonized in the media. And it seems as though unless a film or a documentary or something is done, that's never disputed. It's once the mass media gets out that David was doing this, gang banging, drug dealer, or whatever, that overshadows the rest of the story. So I guess my answer to my question to you is, do you feel that movie and theater and movies is enough to get the story out, to get the truth out, and do you feel that it's working?
I mean, I just feel like we all have our own sort of rebellion inside of us. Jeb had brought that up earlier, you know, like, what is rebellion, what is revolution, and what are you doing to fight the good fight, you know? I mean, I work at a civil rights firm, and we fight for the people every day, you know. I have 20 Oscar grants that I've dealt with, you know what I mean? Young black men get killed by the police in an alarming rate, and no one ever says anything about it. And I think, like, in terms of what we wanted to do with Fruitvale, I mean, you're right, you know, Oscar was demonized, and answering the other young man's question about like, why we chose to stick to those last 24 hours of his life. If you look at those last 24 hours, what did Oscar really do in those last 24 hours that would justify his being killed on that platform? Absolutely nothing, right? Even a little fight, you know. You get a ticket for a fight. You don't go to. You may go to jail. You don't deserve to get shot in the back. And so, like, for many of us, like, I think just taking a story like this, you know, Fruitvale was one of those aha moments for me because, despite Oscar's checkered past, I don't think that anyone can dispute what was on that video. Right? This kid was laying down on his stomach and he wasn't doing anything wrong. So for him to be killed like that, it was was absolutely wrong. And that's the kind of story that you can take to the masses. And I think that everyone can relate to because, you know, it wasn't like he was fighting the cops or he had a gun on him or he was doing anything to cause his own demise. And that was what allowed us to have a story where we can kind of like really get behind it, take it to millions of people and say, you know, police brutality is a problem because of cases like this. And that was kind of the intention behind it.
Last question, and then we can continue the reception, Professor Biden.
Yeah, I just
There's a mic
curious.
if you-
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm curious if you have been demonized for making this movie by any sector of society, be that the police sector of society or any other sector.
I mean, I don't think so. But again, I mean, you know, I'm really nobody, man. You know what I mean? I'm not a celebrity or Hollywood type. I mean, I think like if anyone's gonna get some flack, it might be Forrest. he's pretty untouchable at this point. Plus, Forrest is such a great guy. I don't think anyone can say a bad word about him. So no, that hasn't really been my experience.
I just want to thank everyone for your presence. I want to thank Ephraim, Toro Productions, Multicultural Center of Labor Studies. Thank you so much for being here. Ephraim will be available to hang out and we'll chat. Thank you all.